Om Shanti. Today, I have been given a very interesting subject to speak on: experiencing spiritual pleasure in Brahmin life. The word pleasure is usually spoken of when there is physical pleasure or sensual pleasure. The word pleasure usually pertains to the senses. But people hardly know of spiritual pleasure. But Baba teaches us the true meaning of spiritual pleasure. When people talk about physical pleasure or sensual pleasure, they talk about the pleasure which the eyes experience, the nose experiences, the ears experience, the tongue experiences, or the skin experiences, the five senses. Usually when you see a beautiful picture, a beautiful image, or a beautiful scenery, which is very pleasing to the eyes, you'll say, oh, it was a great pleasure to watch that. I felt so happy on looking at it. So the happiness or the pleasure is felt when you look at something. The second type of pleasure is when you're listening to something, very good music, and you say, oh, it was a pleasure listening to such music. So something which pleases the senses, it's called pleasure. You eat something very tasty, and you say, oh, it was a wonderful, what a pleasure it was to eat that. It was so tasty. You touch something very soft, you feel it a pleasure. So usually this word is mentioned, pleasure is mentioned when you are experiencing some sensual, you can say touch or the experience in a sensual way. But then when we talk about spiritual pleasure, it has a very deep meaning. Because the sensual pleasure is very limited. You hear music, you enjoy the music, but then after enjoying it, it's a pleasure, definitely. But if you try to make it louder and louder and louder, what will happen? How long will that pleasure last? Will it last for long if it's too loud? You'll say, enough, enough. Oh, you'll close your ears. Enough, enough. So the pleasure is temporary. Only if it's soft, it is the volume is low, then maybe you'll enjoy. And some who are partially deaf, they'll say, oh, come on, raise the volume. Say, no, don't raise the volume, it's too much, it's like that. So for some it can be a pleasure, but then for some others, if they don't like that music, it's no longer a pleasure. They'll say, enough, enough. And then if you keep listening to the same music again and again, what will happen? Oh, what is the same music again and again? No change, no change. So that physical pleasure is so temporary because you want to change. You don't want to keep listening to the same music day and night. You want it different. The same goes with the eyes. You watch on the television, if it's the same still picture on the television, and you're looking at it for 1 hour, you say, what is this? No change? And nowadays on television, the change is so quick. Every second, change, 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 change. Not just on one channel. You have so many channels. You have the remote in your hand. And you're changing channel, changing, changing, changing. And you feel you're enjoying. So, on one hand, change is inevitable in this world. But then you also like change. You like it. You don't like something to be there all the time. And that's why, some people say, oh, if it's the same daily routine, you get bored. You get bored so easily. You watch the same still picture, you are bored. So people get bored very easily. They want change. But then, if you really like change, then this change should be liked in every aspect. But when it comes to changing the self, people don't want to change. When it comes to changing your sanskars, you don't want to change. So there we don't want to change. But physically we like change. So it's very interesting that on one hand you like change. But then on the other hand, when Baba says, change your thoughts, change your feelings, change your vision, change your attitude, the subtle things. And some say, no, it's too difficult. How can I change? We like change, but then we don't want to change. This is a wonderful thing. It's a paradox, I can say, or irony, okay. It's irony that how, on one hand you like change, but on the other hand we don't want to change. But then when we talk about spiritual pleasure, that spiritual pleasure is so deep, so deep. When something is, it is very shallow, then that thing which is shallow or that which is still can ultimately lead to, smell. Supposing you have a little pool of water which is very shallow and it's very still, the water isn't moving, then ultimately it will start smelling, it will start stinking. But the river which is always flowing, it's a beauty to watch that the flow of river. And it is always so fresh because the river is flowing, the water is flowing. And therefore, change is good. Change is a must, not that it is not good or not a must. But then, what type of change? That change should be internal. That change should be on a subtle level. People, whenever you talk about, when they ask about who are you or what are you, it's very interesting. You say, you are not what you eat. You are not what you wear. You are not what you do. What you eat, what you wear, what you do, all this is the hardware part, the physical part. But you are the subtle part, the software part. You are what you think. You are what you feel. You are what you experience. You are what you visualize. You are what motivations you have. So all that is what you what you are. Because what you do, what you eat is a physical part. What you eat, that your body will be made into, If you eat too much, then you can put a lot of weight. And then you go on a diet. Because weight too much of the body is also not good. You wear something, you may look like a gentleman. There's a very interesting saying on this. God made man, but a tailor made a gentleman. God made man. When a child is born, the child is born, without clothes. But then a tailor makes him a gentleman. He looks very handsome, very attractive, wearing a coat and pant, So his personality increases when he has good clothes on. So that's the physical part again. But then in that also we like a change. But then the spiritual part, that's what I am. And that's where we have to bring the change. Only then can we experience the spiritual pleasure. Now, very many people on the path of devotion, they try to experience spiritual pleasure by doing bhakti. They are on the path of devotion. They worship, they pray, they chant, and they also meditate. Yeah, not that they don't. They do all that. Actually, the aim is to experience spiritual pleasure. They want to go inwards. They want to get some good experience. But then they really don't know what it is to experience spiritual pleasure. Because the spiritual pleasure comes through the spiritual understanding of who am I, whose am I, why am I, So when I'm able to make myself experience that, then the spiritual pleasure comes. And that spiritual pleasure is so deep, so deep. The more you go deeper into it, the more you want to go. You can never get bored, never can get bored. Where physical pleasure is concerned, you like change, but you can get bored very easily, very soon. I remember when I went to Europe, at first I went, I don't know which country I went, and they asked me, what do you like? What dish do you like? So at that time, I liked pizza. It was good, Italy, people, everywhere they make pizza in Europe. So I said, I love pizza. Yeah, I like it. And this news went everywhere, to all the countries I visited, that Shielu Ben likes pizza very much. And wherever I went, the same pizza. I said, what is this? People only make pizza here, nothing else. But no, you like pizza. That's what they said. Well, the intentions are good. But definitely you don't want it every time. But then spiritual pleasure is such that the more you go into the depth of it, the more you get new experiences. You like newness. You like change. So the newness and change comes in the spiritual pleasure. And it's so deep that you can go deeper and deeper and deeper, and there is no end. Because for half a kalpa, this thirst has been there. The hunger has been there for spiritual pleasure. Okay, then how do we compare it to the senses? So Baba sometimes says, these eyes, instead of seeing with these eyes, see with your third eye. And with your third eye, you can experience the spiritual pleasure. With these physical eyes, you can't experience spiritual pleasure. You will experience only physical pleasure. But with the third eye, you see the soul. You see yourself. You see God. You see Paramdham. You see heaven. You see the subtle regions. So with the third eye, you are able to visualize that. Of course, physically you can't see it. But definitely with the third eye, you can visualize it. We sometimes call it the mind's eye. In Tampa, in USA, there is a very beautiful museum, the mind's eye. It's the topic, the heading is so beautiful, the mind's eye. Mind is like an eye. And just like with these physical eyes, you see only the present. But mind is such a wonderful eye, E-Y-E, eye, that you can, with the mind's eye, visualize the past and the future also. We say the mind travels so fast. According to science, where physical energy is concerned, they say light travels the fastest. Of all the physical energies, light energy travels the fastest. And still it takes 8 minutes for a ray from the sun, ray of light coming from the sun, when it starts from the sun until it reaches the earth, it takes 8 minutes according to science. So and then on the basis of that, they have found the velocity of light and so on. So we can say that it takes 8 minutes for the light from the sun to reach the earth. But how long does it take for the mind to reach the sun? How long? How long? 1 second. So how quickly the mind travels. And not just travels, it visualizes instantly. Somebody reminds you of an incident, or reminds you, you look at somebody and he says, oh, we have met before, and you may wonder where you met before, where you met that person before. But then that person reminds you, such and such place, in this type of situation, at such and such time, and instantly it strikes, and that yes, we have met there, and you are able to visualize that scene in a second. It comes in your memory, that scene which happened, and instantly it's there. So the mind's eye visualizes it instantly. It takes only a second. And therefore we can say that the mind's eye can give you that spiritual pleasure. In a second you travel to Param Dham. It should not take you long. It's just like you want to go to London, and then, yes, you want to go to New York or wherever. Well, you can't. You may not be able to go directly. You'll have to go through some other country to reach New York. But in a second you reach New York with the mind's eye. In a second. You don't have to go via. You are able to reach there in a second. Similarly, if you want to reach the soul world, you don't have to go via subtle regions. Do you have to go via subtle regions to reach the soul world? No, in an instance. You think of it and you are there in the soul world. So the mind's eye is able to visualize it. And Baba has also told us what the soul world is like. It is a world of infinite golden red light. So how beautiful that golden red light is. And then you're also able to experience maybe the sound. What sound? Of course, there's no sound there. But then these ears are not listening to the sound. It's very silent. But then the mind's ears can listen to the sound of the soul world. The stillness can be heard, of the soul world. So even the stillness can be heard. It's not just sound is heard. Even stillness is heard. And that is, you are hearing through the mind's ear. You can also taste it. What is the taste of Paramdham? So you have this physical pleasure in the form of seeing and hearing and tasting all that, but you can taste the experience of Paramdham. How beautiful it is, where you are totally free from all types of pulls and bondage. It's a beautiful feeling. You can take it in the form of a taste. Why not? That is spiritual pleasure. And the beauty of this spiritual pleasure is that the more deep you go into it, the more and more you can go deeper and deeper. It's like that, if you want to emphasize on this word, deeper and deeper. There's no end. You can never get bored. That's the beauty of the meditation Baba has taught us. Usually you see people, when they go into other meditations, they are either told to keep chanting something, and they think that is meditation. Or they are told, okay, just keep watching your thoughts. That's also a form of meditation. Keep watching your thoughts. Where are your thoughts wandering? Just keep watch over your thoughts. Or some will say, have no thoughts whatsoever. Complete blank, become blank. But then, all these things are not lasting. Because you can't stay blank for a long time. Maybe even if you want to stay blank and you tell yourself, I should not think, even that thought is a thought, no, that I should not think. I should not think. So that's also a thought. So how can you not be thinking? That's the work of the mind, to think, to visualize, to feel, to experience. So we give work to the mind, not that we stop the mind from doing work. That's what Baba says. The mind is your best friend. It can be your worst enemy, but it is also your best friend. It can be your worst enemy. There could be no worse enemy than the mind. That's why we say that no one is really anyone's enemy, because all our souls, why should anyone be anyone's enemy? And all our souls are so beautiful. But yes, it's the mind which acts like an enemy. The vicious thoughts which come in the mind about someone, for someone, or of someone, then they create that enmity. But if I'm having those positive thoughts in the mind about somebody, he's a friend. Why should he be an enemy? So Baba says the vices are your enemies, not any human beings. No human being is anyone's enemy. But the vices, yes, and the vices, they attack the mind first, before they come into words and actions. And therefore Baba says, make your mind your best friend by giving it the right thoughts, the proper thoughts. And those thoughts, if they are really very positive, having thoughts of spirituality, then your mind becomes the best friend. And you become the best friend of yourself. We say, there's a very beautiful saying, that the soul is its own friend and its own enemy. Actually, it's the mind. If it's having positive thoughts, it's his friend. If it's having negative thoughts, it's his enemy. So, Baba teaches us not that we have to keep on chanting something, because again, that will be in words. There's no need to chant, there's no need to come into words. Even that is a pleasure of the tongue. That's why Baba sometimes asks, which is easier, to come into sound or to go beyond sound? Which is easier? To come into sound is easier, or to go beyond sound is easier? Eh? What do you say? To come into sound is easier. Not to go beyond sound? Because when you are beyond sound, you don't have to think. So, if you are thinking means you are making some effort, no? And then only you are able to speak. So which is easier? Don't think. So, not thinking, not speaking, isn't that easier than thinking and speaking? Is it not? But no. Thinking and speaking is easier than not thinking and not speaking, because that's part of body consciousness. But then, in your mind, you cannot stay still, you cannot stay without thinking. Okay, so Baba says, yes, you have to think. But what you have to think, that's the food for thought Baba gives to us. But people don't have that food for thought. So what they do is they just give a mantra and they say, okay, chant this mantra. Supposing like there are many gurus, they give different types of mantras. There could be, for example, we tell this to the people, that supposing your guru has given you the mantra Om Namo Shivaya. Now, and then he's told you, chant this mantra Om Namo Shivaya for 100,000 times during the day. 100,000 times you have to chant this mantra. So what the people do, they start chanting early in the morning, 100, 200, 500, and then they keep noting down. 500, 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000, 50,000, because 100,000 is a big number. And then they start calculating, they start adding. And then when it comes to 100,000, today's work is over. Today my chanting is complete because 100,000 times I chanted. But then when we say yoga, it means connection. Yoga means connection. So is the yoga with Shiva, or is the yoga with the counting? We ask them. Well, the yoga was not with Shiva because they are only thinking about the counting. 100, 200, 500, 1,000, 10,000, 50,000, 60,000, and they are counting all the time. Some keep a calculator also. They chant Om Namah Shivaya, they keep pressing. And they shut their eyes. Sometimes the button doesn't go, the finger doesn't go to the button. Then again, what happened? Why is the button not moving? And they keep looking whether the number is moving forward or not. So yoga is not with Shiva, but yoga is with the counting. But then we say, okay, you chant Om Namah Shivaya, but then what does it mean? It means I pay salutations to Shiva. That's the meaning of Om Namah Shivaya. Om Baba says, I pay salutations to Shiva. Namo means pay. I pay salutations to Shiva. So when you are saying, I pay salutations to Shiva, I pay salutations to Shiva, but you're actually only doing the work of counting. So you are paying salutations to the counting, not to Shiva. If you would really be paying salutations to Shiva, what is the need to count? There's no need to count. A child remembers the father. Does the child count how many times is remembering the father? A wife remembers her husband. Does she have to count to find out how many times she's remembering her husband? No, it's like that. The relationship is so deep that that thing cannot be forgotten. So this is what Baba tells us is your yoga, in which you experience spiritual pleasure. Because even if I'm counting, that also becomes part of physical pleasure. Because I'm giving my thoughts to the counting. But spiritual pleasure means when I go so deep that I even forget for how long I was there, I was in that meditative stage. But for that, Baba says the change has to come in your thoughts. That's why, many people when they come to us, we teach them about meditation, they say, whatever you have told me, I've understood everything, but then just give me a mantra and I will do for the next part of my life, I will keep chanting that. And we say, no, we don't have any mantra here. You know the word mantra, from where it has come? Just like the word yoga, yog, has come from a Sanskrit word, yuja. It's from a Sanskrit word. The original word is yuja, which means to connect. That is the real meaning of yog, yuja, to connect. Similarly, the word mantra comes from a Sanskrit word, mantrana. That's a Sanskrit word, which means a suggestion. Mantrana, a suggestion, a thought, something when you're discussing and reaching some conclusion, and it's like coming together and discussing on a very deep topic. So they say they are doing mantrana, discussing. It's not an argument, it's like a dialogue. But then they're coming to some deep conclusion through that dialogue or through that discussion. And that's a mantrana, or suggesting one another, helping one another. That's mantrana. So the word mantra has come from the word mantrana, which means to give suggestion to your mind. And the word man means mind. So tra also has many meanings. The word tra has, the deepest meaning is satisfaction. So satisfaction of the mind, or we say experiencing pleasure of the mind, quenching, tranquilizing, yeah, or contentment of the mind. All these meanings can go with just one alphabet, tra. So Baba says mantra means quenching the mind, the thirst of the mind. Like you drink water, you quench yourself from the thirst. So the mind also is so thirsty to get spiritual water, or you can say spiritual juice or spiritual nectar, and therefore you get this spiritual nectar. The intellect guides the mind, and the mind is experiencing that. The intellect is just guiding. So actually the trend should be that the intellect should guide the mind, and the mind should control the senses. That is why we say mind, which is today become a vagabond, like a naughty horse. Why? Because the intellect, which are the reins, those reins are not working anymore. The intellect is not able to guide the mind. And it's going reverse. The senses are guiding the mind, and the mind is suppressing the intellect. It's going reverse. The senses are guiding the mind. Wherever the senses wish to go, the mind is forced to go there. The example of, I want to eat something tasty, very tasty. And the mind is thinking, I want to eat that, I want to eat that, I want to eat that. Gulab jamun, I want to eat gulab jamun. And, who can make gulab jamun for me? I want to eat gulab jamun. So the senses are directing the mind. And the intellect is telling the mind, don't eat, you are diabetic, don't eat. Oh, no, please, let me eat a little bit. The mind is the senses are telling the mind, and the intellect is then suppressing, the mind is suppressing the intellect. Don't think. Don't say that I'm diabetic. Never mind, I'll take some more medicine. Never mind, I'll take some more medicine. Why? Because the tongue wants the taste of gulab jamun. Even, Baba sometimes says at the time of leaving the body, if somebody has in his whole lifetime experienced sensual pleasure only, maybe of the tongue, wanted only tasty food. So at the time of leaving the body also he's thinking about tasty food. Yes. Baba gives an example. There was one lady, she was not in Gyan, but then Baba gave an example once that she was leaving her body and she wanted sitafal. Sitafal, what do you call sitafal in English? It's a fruit. But you don't get it very often. It's only a seasonal fruit. And she was dying. Now from where to get that fruit? It's not available easily in the market. And she was saying, sitafal. It's not pomegranate, it's some other, I don't know what fruit, what's it called, huh? Anybody knows what is, huh? Custard apple, yeah. Custard apple. So custard apple, and she was dying. And the poor relatives of that lady, they said, from where to get custard apple? You don't get so easily. So they said, okay, please go to any market shop and see if you can get custard apple. And she said, custard apple. Ultimately, they found, but then by the time the custard apple arrived, she saw it and she left the body. Where could she eat? So the tongue wanted custard apple and the mind was going towards the custard apple. The intellect was being suppressed. Even though somebody was reminding her, think of God, but could she think of God? She was only remembering custard apple. So this is why Baba says, spiritual pleasure means you can even taste that pleasure. Because pleasure goes with the senses. But then looking at it, listening to it, tasting it, then the sense of touch. The sense of touch, you see, people talk about touch and they say the magical touch, A child is born, the mother kisses the child And immediately the child is able to experience that pleasure, even without knowing anything, who is kissing me. But then these physical pleasures, they become vices gradually. When we say love, love is actually a very spiritual word. We love God, we love the self, the soul, we love nature. But then when it comes to just physical pleasure, is the sensual pleasure of love turning into lust, sex lust, attachment, greed, because it could be love for anything. Love for the skin, just the touch of the skin. The smell of that, when you love someone, you want to smell that thing. Maybe you love your dog. You love your dog so much, you want to keep smelling the dog all the time. Sometimes it happens. I saw one girl. She was smelling the dog and she was always washing the dog with the most fragrant soaps, and because she could smell, she wanted to smell the dog all the time. So that is sensual pleasure. But then that led to attachment. And when the dog died, my God, she couldn't bear the death of the dog. And I said, dog dying, so why are you crying? I mean, doesn't matter, my dog, my dog. Humans forgotten, now dog is remembered. I went somewhere and that lady had 2 dogs. She said, I don't want children, my dogs are my children. And her mother-in-law, she said, and she told her mother-in-law, they are your grandchildren. And the mother-in-law said, I don't want such grandchildren. A dog as my grandchild? I never want, I want human beings. But that's what some people do. Even we say, yes, a dog is a very faithful animal, no doubt. But then, after all, it's only an animal. No, of course, soul is there. But then, yes, when the dog licks, you like it. People like it, the dog licking. Or the dog, hugging. It's liked a lot. But then, all these definitely go for physical pleasures, as physical pleasures. But then, if we rise above that physical pleasure and talk about spiritual pleasure, loving God, seeing the beauty of God, experiencing the qualities of God. That is why we say Shiva is what? Satyam Shivam Sundaram. The truth, the benefactor, and the beautiful. So, how is Shiva beautiful? It's not a physical form to be beautiful. So we say, handsome is that one who handsome does, not just handsome in looking, but who handsome does, that one is really handsome. So Baba says the qualities, they are to be experienced, and this is like experiencing God's love. It's not physical love. You tell somebody, you don't love me, and that person will say, okay, I love you, and he'll hug you. Okay, I love you and kiss you. But is that love? Is that really love? He may hug you or kiss you maybe in front of you, and behind your back he is talking all ill things about you. Is that love? That's not love. That's why somebody very rightly said, there's a saying in English, God, take care of my friends, and I will take care of my enemies. Take care of my friends, and I will take care of my enemies. What does that mean? Because those who seem to be my friends, you really don't know what they are, because they may be praising me, they may be, saying all good things to me in front of me. But behind my back, I don't know what they are saying. So how can they be my real friends? But so take care of my friends, because I don't know really whether they are my good friends or not, because they are praising me in front of me. But I will take care of my enemies. That means if somebody is really showing some enmity, at least I know that he is showing some enmity. So I should know how to treat him or how to behave with him. But the one who seems to be my friend and is praising me, but then indirectly is taking all the money from my pocket, making me use up all my money, praising me just because he wants my money and all that. He's not my real friend. He's a selfish person. And therefore, take care of my friends. I will take care of my enemies. I know how to deal with that enemy. I know, because he is, whatever he is in his true form, that he's showing. But a friend is not showing his true form in front of me, so I really don't know whether he's my friend or not. And therefore, Baba also says, what is love? Love is not physical. If behind that love there is a selfish motive, how can that be love? In love, there is sacrifice. In love, there is surrender. In love, there is, giving. It's not wanting. That's not love. In love, you don't demand, you don't ask, you only want to give. Because you love that person. And if somebody is demanding, it's not that that one has love for you. But if there's love, you want to give yourself without somebody even asking, because you love that person. But if he's demanding and you think that he has love for me, it's not love. So if you're asking, it's not love. And that's why Baba says, true love is like how Baba gives us love. Baba gives love to all. If love is for such and such, not for this one, even that is not love. Love is universal. God is love. Why do they say God is love? Because God's love is universal for all souls. But then the souls experience that love on the basis of their stage. That's the beauty. That is why we see in nature, nature is always giving, the sun is always giving, the trees are always giving, the river is always giving, the air is always giving, fire is always giving. It has its own nature qualities, so it's giving, because that's its nature. That's why it's called nature. So in that it's always giving. They don't keep restrictions that I give sunlight only to this one and not to that one, and air only to this one and not to that one, fruit to this one and not to that one. No. Or water to this one and not to that one. So that's why we say nature is like God, always giving. It takes hardly one seed only, but then it gives so much in return. So God is always giving. He's a bestower. So the truth, the bestower, and the beautiful. The beautiful means all the qualities of of giving. The ocean of knowledge, ocean of peace, ocean of love, ocean of happiness. That's why he's an ocean. And truth. Truth is loved by all. Everyone loves truth. Truth. Why do we love truth? Because the soul itself is an embodiment of truth. The meaning of truth is also so deep. What is the meaning of truth? Truth is not something which every field of knowledge gives a different definition of truth. Science will say seeing is believing. Whatever you see, only that you believe. What you don't see, what you can't experiment upon, what you can't measure, well, that's all untruth, because it deals only with nature, the physical nature, the physical energies. So you can measure that, you can see it or capture it or whatever. But then spirituality gives a different definition of truth, totally opposite to the definition of science. Science says seeing is believing. And spirituality says whatever you see is all untruth. Whatever you see is all untruth. Why untruth? Because it's always changing. And something which is changing, how can that be called the truth? So we go into the meaning of the truth, the real meaning of truth. If something is changing, how can that be truth? Supposing truth means, supposing an incident happens and the person is speaking the truth, he will say it as it happened. the way it was and what he saw, what he felt, what he experienced, all that, and exactly in the same words he will say it. Now, even if 10 people ask him, he will answer the same thing, because how can there be a change? Because that's what he saw. So he won't change. But then if somebody is trying to hide one truth, supposing he stole something and he's caught, and he says, I never stole. He says, I was not there, I this, that. He will give 10 reasons that he did not steal, although he stole, so that he is going against the truth. He is telling lies. So in order to hide one truth, he will tell a lie. And in order to protect that lie, how many lies he will have to speak? No, is it not? Okay, where were you at that place? He'll say, I was there. What were you doing? I was doing that. So all are lies, because actually he stole. So in order to hide one truth, he'll tell a lie. In order to protect that lie or to give weight to that lie, he will tell so many lies which are totally against that truth. So he'll keep changing his statements again and again. And ultimately his first statement and his last statement will be totally different. And then he'll be caught. He'll be known that he's telling lies. But the one who's speaking the truth, he need not change his statements. The same thing, he's speaking from his heart. And people will understand, yeah, he's speaking the truth, because the feelings come that he's speaking the truth. So what's the meaning of truth? Truth is that which is unchanging. Truth is that which is eternal. Truth is that which can never be created, which is never destroyed. It's always there. It was, it is, and it will always be. And therefore we say soul is the truth. Supreme soul is the truth. Paramdham is the truth, yes. Even the elements are the truth. The 5 elements are eternal. Nobody created them. They are the truth. Nobody created the soul. Nobody created Paramdham. Nobody created Supreme Soul. So all are these, they are truth. The others keep changing. Everything which pertains to nature, the 5 elements are the truth. But because the 5 elements are always moving, there's always a change happening in nature, that is why spirituality says that whatever is visible is all untruth. This physical body, after a few minutes, there'll be a few changes in the cells. After 8 years, all the cells in the body change. Nothing is the same of the old body which was there 8 years ago. Even this, the wall, 10 years ago and today, there must be a big change. The molecules are moving, everything is changing. A day may come, it can crumble down because it can get old. So, as everything changes in nature, and that is why spirituality says that whatever is visible is all untruth. Because the eyes are seeing just that which is always in motion, but then I'm not able to see the motion, but it is changing all the time. And that's why we love change. But we don't like to change our sanskars. Why? Because the soul in its original nature is very pure, very clean. We like purity, but because we are body conscious, we don't wish to attain that stage of purity. We also want to attain, but then we say we can't. That's why Baba says sometimes, but all these excuses we give. We do not realize that our original nature is such. So that's what Baba takes us back to our original truth. And when we are in our original truth, then we don't have to change, because that's our righteous form of change. We have already changed into our righteous form. We have reached our eternal stage, our original stage, our purest stage, our karmatit stage, complete stage, our full stage. We say full, complete, and beyond. So that's the stage we experience, and that stage is a stage of fullness. And that's what Baba says, just like the moon, it's full and complete. Full and complete. Full means all full round, and complete means complete in its light. So it's full and complete. But then, again, the moon changes because every day it's a change in the moon. But the soul also changes in a way. From that complete, perfect stage, we do come down to that impure stage. But the Supreme Soul never changes. That is why God is called the truth. The truth, unchanging, eternal, always the ocean of love, always the ocean of peace, always the ocean of mercy, always. Not sometimes and only sometimes and not at other times. But souls, they also change. And therefore, when we say yoga means communion, connection with the one who's always unchanging, then we are able to attain that stage. We are able to reach that perfection, that completion. So perfection and completion is only with Shiv Baba and with God. And we attain that stage, but then again we change. Because souls come in contact with nature, and nature is also always changing. But then who will bring nature and souls back to their original form? Then that's the work of God. So we say three things: Supreme Soul, Soul and Nature. And all the three are eternal. So in a way, all the three are truth. But nature keeps changing, and with that, because the souls are in constant contact with nature, and therefore we souls keep changing, not physically, but then spiritually. And then the one who never changes, that Supreme Soul we come in contact with, and then we reach our complete stage. And this is the beauty of God's creation. You know, all the questions can be answered. Whatever spiritual questions people have in the world, Baba answers through these three steps of soul, Supreme Soul and nature. So we understand the truth, we understand how Baba is the benefactor, we understand how Baba is the beautiful, and that's we all love. We all love truth. We all love beauty. We all love to be benefited. So who is the most beautiful? We'll say God is the most beautiful. But these eyes can't visualize God in a physical way. But the mind's eye can visualize God. How? By thinking of the beauty of God's virtues. This again is part of psychology. You know, in psychology, when you want to express your love for someone, you express it by praising that person. And when you want to express your hatred for someone, you express it by telling all the weaknesses of that person. This is love and hatred. So praise means love, and defamation or insult or seeing weaknesses, mentioning weaknesses is what we call as hatred. So when we praise the qualities of Baba, Shiv Baba, you are the ocean of knowledge. Immediately we begin to feel that. So that's what Baba says. Awareness and then becoming the embodiment of it. Awareness and becoming the embodiment of it. By thinking of Shiv Baba as the ocean of knowledge, you are beginning to have love for Shiv Baba. And then I am also an embodiment of knowledge or embodiment of love, and immediately I feel that how I am able to enjoy the beauty of God's love or God's knowledge or God's purity or whatever virtue we are thinking of. And this is how we understand spiritual pleasure. So we can visualize it, we can listen, we can taste, we can feel the touch, and we can feel, yes, how I'm moving along with Baba. When Dadi Janki speaks about company of Baba, combined with Baba, it's all in the form of feeling. So some say, how can I feel combined? How can I feel in the company? It's in the form of feeling. Like a child holding the father's hand. So it's a feeling. I'm holding Baba's hand. Baba doesn't have a physical hand or a physical finger which I'm holding. But then it's a beautiful feeling that yes, I'm holding my father's hand. And I know who my father is. Again, the intoxication comes with that pleasure. Of course, the intoxication is not different from pleasure. The intoxication comes because I begin to think, whose am I? Who am I and whose am I gives the intoxication, which is even higher than just the pleasure. Because the intoxication makes me forget or finish off all the other weaknesses. That's why people go only for the physical intoxication in the form of intoxicants. They drink liquor, alcohol, or smoke, or whatever. And Baba says, no, all those intoxicants will ultimately lead to sorrow, will lead to unhappiness, will lead to complete displeasure. It won't lead to any type of pleasure. But the real intoxication comes from inside. When I say, whose am I? This morning, Baba spoke in the Murli. Whose children are we? We are the children of the great, great, great grandfather. Just imagine. Brahma, our great, great grandfather. And at this time, he becomes my direct father. Brahma, whom the world remembers. Adi Dev, Brahma, Adam. And he's my direct father now. My Alokik father now. You know, I was just churning this morning when I was listening to the Murli. People have so much intoxication when they think of whose children they are. And sometimes if the father is a very respectable person in the society, or the grandfather is a very respectable person in society, and they are the grandchildren of such a respectable grandfather, they love to call themselves by that name, of their grandfather or their father. Because they belong, the father and grandfather are so high in the society. Even if they have their own qualities, even if they rise a lot, they get a lot of success, but they like to be called by their father's or grandfather's name. Sometimes it happens that the grandchild becomes very elevated. The son becomes elevated. The father was elevated, but then later on the son becomes more elevated. So before, the son used to be called on the name of his father. He is the son of so-and-so. But gradually when the son becomes elevated, then the introduction changes. That this one is the father of so-and-so, Like Jayanti Ben. She used to say before people, when they would speak about Murli Dada, he was well known in the society, had a big name. So she's the daughter of Murli Dada, Jayanti Ben's father. So Murli Dada, so she's a daughter. But later on when Jayanti Ben got her position, her stage and all that, then gradually the introduction changed of Murli Dada. He is the father of Jayanti Ben. Whoever becomes more famous, on that we like to be called, by that name. Just like introduction of your address. So supposing you are opposite a big company or anything, or you'll say opposite so-and-so, near so-and-so, or behind so-and-so. But a time may come, like the Brahma Kumari centers. Before we used to say Brahma Kumari Center is opposite the hospital, opposite this, behind this, in the address. But gradually, then in India, it's very interesting. Many roads are called by Brahma Kumari Road. Because the Brahma Kumari Center is there. It's a huge center, and therefore the road is named as Brahma Kumari Center. So other buildings, their address is mentioned opposite Brahma Kumari Center. So before we used to say our address is opposite that. But then because we become well known, the Brahma Kumaris become well known, so that address goes lower and is opposite the Brahma Kumari center. And because Brahma Kumari center is so well known in that town, or the road is Brahma Kumari's road. So here we are proud to call ourselves the grandchildren of Shiv Baba or the children of Brahma Baba. We won't say Brahma Baba is my father or Shiv Baba is my grandfather, but I will say I am the grandchild of Shiv Baba because I keep Shiv Baba and Brahma Baba always in front of me. That's the intoxication. Whose child am I? Which is better intoxication, to say whose child am I or who is my father? I mean, are they the same thing? Whose child am I and who is my father? When you say whose child am I, then the father comes first. You say who is my grandfather, then I come first. But if you want to bring the intoxication of your father and your grandfather, then you have to say, who is my father? Who is my grandfather? I always narrate a very beautiful incident when I was with Brahma Baba. This was in the year 1960, when I first came to Madhuban. At that time, Brahma Baba was in Madhuban, and Baba, myself, my Lokik mother and Baba, we were all three of us sitting on the swing, and we were swinging. It was a beautiful experience swinging with Baba. And Baba asked me a question. I was only 12 years old at that time. Baba asked me a question. Child, with whom are you swinging? I said, I'm swinging with Baba. Then Baba asked, who else are you swinging with? I said, my mother. My mother was sitting next to Baba. Baba in the middle and myself this side and my mother this side. Then Baba very sweetly asked, who else? I said, nobody else, Baba. Then Baba said, see child, whenever you swing with Baba, you should have that intoxication that I am swinging with the three highest authorities of the world. Then I was perplexed, I didn't understand what Baba meant. Three highest authorities of the world. So I said, yeah, Baba, how? Then Baba said, see, Shiv Baba is in the body of Brahma Baba. So first of all, you should have that intoxication. I'm swinging with the highest on high Supreme Father, the Father of all souls. The way Baba said it with that intoxication. So the highest on high Supreme Father, the Father of all souls, and that one is my Father. I'm swinging with my Father. Then the highest on high human being, Brahma, Adam, the creator of humanity. So I'm swinging with the creator of humanity, the great, great, great grandfather. And I'm the great, great grandchild of that highest great, great grandfather. Baba went on saying with so much intoxication. Then I was counting, what about the third? And then Baba said, yes, the future golden aged first prince of heaven. Baba's soul becomes the soul of Krishna. So the first golden aged heavenly prince, I'm swinging with that one. So you can imagine what must have been my intoxication at that time. Of course, it's a spiritual pleasure, but then it's a higher form of pleasure, a form of intoxication. Where you go beyond, the senses don't work there, because you see only as an ordinary human being sitting next to you, dressed in white. Where can you think of all these things? But then the one who understands knows with whom I'm swinging. And after that, whenever I sit on a swing, I always remember that scene. With swinging with Baba, and Baba saying with so much intoxication, that whom are you swinging? So I enjoy sitting on the swing and enjoying that feeling. So it's like touch. Though physically Baba is not there, of course, physically I did feel Baba when I was on the swing. But then now, even if Baba is not there physically, But the spiritual touch is felt, and I can feel that I'm still swinging with Baba, the highest three authorities. So this is the spiritual pleasure. So all the five senses can be felt in a spiritual way. You can even smell. Can you smell Baba? Can you smell? No? No? Instead of wanting to smell your dog, just go opposite. G-O-D. You know, in the earlier days when our dadis used to give lectures, I remember a few dadis giving lectures that the child of a D-O-G is D-O-G and the child of G-O-D is G-O-D. You understood? Child of D-O-G is D-O-G. A child of a dog is a dog. And child of G-O-D, opposite of D-O-G, no? G-O-D and D-O-G. So a child of G-O-D is? Who is the child of G-O-D? If the child of a D-O-G is D-O-G, dog, then who's the child of G-O-D? Also G-O-D, no? God. So we are all gods and goddesses because we are children of God. And I know one brother, he was the director. His portfolio was, he was a DGO, Director General of Observatories. And he gave his introduction, I'm neither a DOG nor a GOD, but I'm DGO. So he always remembers GOD and he says, I am DGO, Director General of Observatories. And very interesting, one person came as a VIP to Baba, and like Baba was remembering the VIPs the other day, they were VIPs of this world. Someone was a judge and the other was a politician, member of parliament. They are all come from Hyderabad and other places, so they were all sitting. So Baba told them that you are a VIP for the world, but for Baba you are a child. So they had good position in the society. So someone came to Baba and he was actually a VIP, but when he was sharing his experience, he told that I came as a VIP, I stayed as a VIP, and I'm going back as a VIP. And then he gave the meaning of the word VIP. Usually VIP means very important person. So he said, I came as a VIP, a very ignorant person. I came as a VIP, a very ignorant person. I stayed as a VIP. I was given a lot of importance. So I was a VIP, a very important person. And I'm going back as a VIP, a very informed person. So VIP in all three ways. So we are also very, very VIPs, no? Aren't we VIPs? Whose children are we? Baba often tells us that now you invite the VIPs to your programs. You give them a lot of, big place seat, and you give them a lot of respect. But a time will come when you will be the VIPs on their stage. So you will be the V. How many times V you can add before the IP? The very, 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 very. You can make it square 10 times, 100 times. That's what we are. That is a spiritual intoxication. But that intoxication can come only when I am experiencing the spiritual pleasures. And when I'm experiencing those spiritual pleasures, then these physical senses are not attracted anymore. They don't attract anymore in the sense we don't feel the pull of the physical senses anymore. Because we can go beyond the physical senses. These eyes see and yet don't see this physical world. The ears are able to hear many sounds and yet we don't hear because we are listening only to Baba's words. I know many people, they are, and I look at them around, they are so intoxicated. And I'm wondering why so intoxicated? Because they have headphones. They are listening to the music. One person is doing like this, and going. So I was wondering why. Then I came, when I went closer, I saw he had headphones, he was listening to the music and dancing. Some people are talking on the mobile, but they're not having the mobile in their hand, the mobile is in the pocket, and they're just having headphones. And they're talking and talking, so I didn't understand why he's talking, with whom he's talking. But actually, the mobile was in his pocket and the headphones were there, so he was talking. So it happens. But then again, that's all physical, is it not? So even if these headphones are not there, the mobile is not there, nothing is there, but still I'm in that intoxicated state. I'm talking inside to Baba, seeing Baba. I'm listening to the music of God's pleasure. I'm tasting, I'm smelling, but all in a spiritual way. So this is what we have to experience, and that's what Baba says, experiencing spiritual pleasure in Brahmin life. And today that was a slogan. So spiritual pleasure, if you're experiencing, there no more confusion. Because confusion comes when you're seeing the physical, and there's always changing. The physical is always changing. But if you're in your spiritual intoxication or spiritual pleasure, you are experiencing the depth. The changes are not there, the superfluous changes are not there, but you are going into the depth and experiencing and grasping and absorbing and becoming the embodiment of it. And then you feel the stillness. The more the stillness, the more the depth, the more the fulfillment. Okay? So let us experience that for some time. Om Shanti. In a second, we can go beyond the physical attractions, the physical pulls, the physical sounds. And begin to feel the stillness within, the depth within the self. I am a soul. A pure and peaceful soul. The child of the ocean of purity and peace. Dwelling in the purest and peaceful abode. My mind's eye visualizes the supreme abode. the world of silence. My mind's eye visualizes my Supreme Father, the ever-truth, the benefactor, and the most beautiful one. Who is a point in form, and an ocean in all the virtues. Fathomless, the unlimited Father. An ocean in a drop. The ever-truth, the unchanging, eternal Father. And I, the soul, am the worthy child. How pure I am. How peaceful I am. I can feel the closeness of my beloved Father, Mother, teacher and friend. My Supreme Sadguru. And guide. Sweetest Baba, in your company, I experience the spiritual pleasure. I can go deeper and deeper into the ocean of peace, of purity, of love, and happiness of the soul. I am now fully aware of who I am and whose I am. I feel so light. All my burdens are finished. There is only pleasure and pleasure. In the company of my Supreme Father.